So the things you're going to need to complete this project are, if it's for just one person, you're going to need a 25-foot Tygon PVC surgical tubing, appropriate dimensions down in the comments section. Or if it's going to be for 2 people, get 2 of these. So you'll have a total of 50 feet of tubing. You're also going to need 4 small tubes of fast drying super glue. If it's going to be for 1 person, you're going to need 2 Camelback quick links, or if it's going to be for 2 people, get 3. For 1 person, get 1 hand towel. For 2 people, 2. Bungee cord, get 2 per towel. Next, you're going to need about 2 feet of 1-inch diameter tubing and 2 LP tubing for that 1-inch diameter tubing. You're also going to need a pump to run the water through the tubing. We have here the Shoreline pump, which runs at 600 gallons per hour, and it's 3 amp with 13.6 volt to run it at full speed. And the battery accompanying this pump runs at 7.2 volt, which means that it'll run about half, around 300 gallons per hour. Our battery has 2500 milliamp hours, which helps with the amount of time the battery will last before it runs out of power. With this battery, it's a Lipo battery, so you're able to charge it once the battery starts to go down or lose its power. You're able to recharge it. To recharge it, you're also going to have to buy a charging station, a portable electric drill, and for the holes you want to drill in using the hand drill, you want a bit that can create a hole the size of a half inch. So either with a hole drill, which I think would be the easiest, or just using a normal drill bit screw. And lastly, you're going to need a cooler that can fit a decent amount of water, because the more water you can fit into the cooler, the longer the cold water will last. The first thing we're going to create is the back pad, which will be used for the water cooling system. We're going to attach the tubing to the towel to create the back pad, so that when the cold water runs through the tubing, it will be applied to your back, which will be what's cooling you down. When we're attaching the tubing to the towel, you want to create links going in a snake-like fashion across the towel to create like the most surface area, so that your back will be cooled most efficiently. To start off, put 1 to 2 feet of tubing at the start of the towel, so that the tubing can come from the cooler to the towel. And then lay your first line across, and then apply your super glue. I found that applying dabs of super glue from 3 to 4 inches was sufficient enough to keep the tubing secured to the towel. Make sure your super glue has a wider open mouth, so that you can quickly apply the super glue to the towel, so that you can quickly apply pressure from the tubing to the towel. Because with super glue, it's very quick and fast acting. This one in particular is about 10 seconds. When you're making your links in the tubing, make sure you are not going in too tight of a radius, because if you do, you will create kinks in the tubing which can impede the flow of the water through the tubing. Make sure you have some newspaper or something that is easily removable underneath the towel, because the super glue will go through the towel and glue itself from the towel to whatever is underneath the towel. So ensure that you have some type of newspaper or something easily removable underneath. When doing the turns in the links, make sure you have back pressure on the corners. That way the tubing, after it dries, will not move, and you can set the tubing in place. The reason this is necessary is because the tubing I have and what's normally sold is in very tight coils, and because of this, the tubing wants to roll back up after you stretch it out. So once you purchase the tubing, it's advised to try to uncoil it and let it stay uncoiled for a while. That'll make the process of creating this much easier, because you won't have to fight the tubing Now it's very important that when you are making the turns, it's important to set the tubing in place before applying the glue. To do this, you can use heavy objects. I've used books. It'd be a lot easier if you had something that wasn't as bulky as books but still heavy, such as brick. But use something that's heavy and flat. That way you can set the tubing on its course across the towel. And once you have the tubing turned in a tight radius without it kinking and it's set in place and won't move, you can lift it up slightly and apply the glue underneath. You can either push down with your fingers or apply another brick on top of it without upsetting the side ones to apply pressure to it. I use my fingers for the most part. It was fast and easy to do, but again, you run into the possibility of getting super glue on your fingers. Ensure the links are close together. That way, with your 25 feet of tubing, you can get the most bang for your buck and get as many coils as possible onto the towel. That way, you have a larger area for the cooling on your back. Best strategy would be to just do one line of coil, make sure it is attached to the towel efficiently, and then do the turn. Add a weighted object to the edge of the turn that is not glued yet to set it into place, and just keep going back and forth until you have roughly 1 to 2 feet left of tubing, so that it can either go back to the cooler or towards the second towel that you're going to be using for your co-pilot. Alright, so now that you have both of your towels for the two-person system, we need to connect the hoses of one of the ends together. That way you can combine the cool water into both towels. To do this, we have a bowl of really hot water to make the pipes more moldable so that we can use one of our connector pieces here. Make sure that you use the male end for your main one. That way, if you don't need a secondary one, you can just plug the male into the cooler there. So now all you do, take it out, and it should be really moldable, and it is. You just kind of work it. For building your cooler system now, you're going to need battery, your pump, 2 quick link male to female ends, a transmitter from the 1 inch in diameter tubing with 2 L pieces, and so one of the ends will go into the pipe here, and then the other will go into this, and then from here you connect it like so. And then, so this is all inside the system, and what you need to do is get a drill with a hole drill bit. What you need to do is drill an entrance and exit hole. These are already drilled into this one. I would highly suggest that you drill them into the side here. That way when you're carrying it, you won't accidentally knock into a doorway or your leg or something for these and have them pop out, because they're pretty hard to keep together. They're very fragile. So if you put them on the side here where it's thinner, it'll be a lot easier, 1, to drill through, and 2, not have them fall apart. Make sure you do not get a battery that has more volts than the pump can take, because you will burn out the pump from just making it go way too fast. Alright, for one of the holes, you want to drill out the diameter of your transition piece from your 1 inch diameter tubing to your 1/2 inch diameter connecting piece. So make sure you measure this guy and drill a hole big enough for this to fit through, and then another one big enough for this to fit through. So we're going to show you here how to connect it. So you're just going to push it through the back side and make sure it's flush. We're going to add our silicone to it. Make sure it's nice and snug. Like, there's some space here, and that's because we didn't drill a hole big enough to fit the whole thing through. So make sure you do that to keep it flush, and that will remove some leaks if there are any. So now you just push them together, make sure they're good. Make sure you've added enough silicone for it. Seems to be connected pretty well. So now we're going to add silicone to the outside edges just to keep a good hold on it, so that if it does get hit, it will not move or fall off. So you don't have to do this step over again multiple times. Do it on that side. Alright. Add the top back to it. Make sure it's pressed together nice and tight, because you don't want to leak inside this. Alright, then we're going to add our second one here, and the reason we don't need another one is just because this is where the water comes from the system back into the cooler. So all we need to do is just keep it here, and the water will pour back in. Alright, so we use our silicone again. Add a good amount to it. So there you go. Now you got your silicone. You want to keep it pushed here. Add some extra. And with this one, since the hole is bigger, you're going to have to hold it till the silicone sets. Make sure it's nice and uniform. Alright, so with the pump, now you want to epoxy it to the back of your cooling system, and then see here, just cut your tubing for your L or your Z pipe here to go from the pump here up to your transition, and then you just push it through, make it nice and snug. And then you see the wires here, see red is obviously goes to red, and then black goes to black. We are fancy here, and we added a switch that powers it. But to make it simple, to keep the battery out of the water, because you want it out of the water, what you need to do is put some Velcro on this side, and then you can just also put it on the side here and just keep it right there. And then if you need extra wire, that's not too hard to get, but the wire it comes with is plenty long enough, and just make sure it's out of the water when you're doing it, and just attach it, and you're good to go. You can just close it after, and you're set.